Welcome to my podcast, You Are More. I'm your host, Amy, and I am so excited to be discussing today a key principle, a core value. Um, I think we all have leading and guiding principles, or we should have leading and guiding principles that literally dominate our life. And for me, one of the biggest principles in life is giving. And giving to me is the gateway to everything you've ever wanted in your life. It's the gateway out and it's the gateway upward. And you're like, "What do you mean by that? And what do you mean by giving?" Because giving can be in the form of money, time, talent, friendship. Like, giving is doing the opposite of probably what you need to do, what you wanna do in the situation. And so, let me kinda backtrack on this, okay? So, um, this last week, I had, my favorite pastor in town. She came to visit, and I asked her because she's navigated through much crisis in her life. I've asked her, what's the core principle? What's the guiding principle that got you that has navigated you out of crisis and into um you just keep walking into greater levels of success and fulfillment and she said giving. She said, here's an example. She said, when I was young and I was living in a trailer court and didn't have any money, a lady came and gave me a turkey, and I took a little bit of the turkey out of it. And then I went on that Thanksgiving, and I went to the inner city and I literally gave the rest of the turkey away. And I just started to have like abundance coming to me. Like that would just start to multiply. And I thought it's so interesting because that's my core principle. And I've seen it demonstrate over and over and over and over again. The Bible says, he who has an abundant eye increases, right? And the generous, liberal giver shall be abundantly blessed. But interestingly enough, the person that withholds actually like restriction and lack and they come to want more, right? It's an interesting thing because it's always the exact opposite of what you think. So let's take a problem because I'm a tactical, practical person. I want a key and a principle that I can apply that I know works. And so as I've been looking at some things, I've been reviewing like what are core guiding principles in my life. The law of giving and this law of sowing um, are so predominant in my life, and they have caused me to walk into areas that I'm absolutely blown away by. So, example, I'll never forget it. So let's just face the facts that here I am. I did not get married till I was 37 years old, and many of you know that to listen to this podcast. And I didn't have this. It was a lonely time, right? And so when I would have that loneliness, I would literally take a family, I'd choose a family, and I'd start to sow into that family. Like, hey, let me send you out on a date. Let me line up a babysitter for you. Let me gift you a weekend away. I literally sowed into the very thing that I wanted but did not have at the time. Here's the reality of it. Today I sit here with a husband that I've been married to for almost 15 years, guys. We have 2 beautiful kids, Faith and Foster. They're 8-year-old twins of ours, and I'm abundantly blessed. Those days of loneliness, those days of all of that are so far in the rearview mirror, I hardly ever even think about it. Like, I can't even pull the feelings back up. Yet I do. I mean, I can understand them, right? I can identify. When I see people, I understand what it feels like to feel that way. But I'm just telling you, it's so far in the rearview mirror that I always knew that there would come a time when when those years of feeling lean and lonely, that there'd be a flip, right? That there'd be an abundance that would come. And so I always believed that. But it's been through the principle of sowing and giving. And I believe you can that literally um your path out is in what you sow. And so I'll take you to another thing. So I'll never forget it. My husband and I were going through some fertility issues, and I'm being really vulnerable here, guys. This isn't something like people want to talk about, but I think you need to know it. There's someone out there that needs to hear this. And so we were going through that, and again, we got married later in life, so all the natural things are, well, it's too old, you've missed your opportunity, that window's closed. Yet I knew on the inside that there was a way, that if God had given me the desire, then he was going to make a way. So someone needs to hear that too. If you have that desire, then he's going to make a way for that desire to come forth. He's gonna make a way for the desires of your heart to come forth because he put them on your heart. They're divinely implanted in the inside of you. They're not there to frustrate you. They're not there to just sit there and upset you and disappoint you. Those divinely inspired things on the inside of you are to come forth. And so, it's up to you though to make it. It's up to you to be an active participant in that. That's how I'll word it. It's up to you to be an active participant in that. So my husband and I are in this all this fertility stuff, and I had a really good friend of mine, and she called me and said, "Amy, you're not gonna believe it. I'm pregnant." And here's the thing. Let's go human nature. Like on the inside, I was thrilled for them, and I was crushed on the inside for me. I'm like, yet another one. Like everybody I know has kids. Everybody I know has a family. And while I was so excited for her because I was just excited for her, I had that dualistic thing of, oh, and it put me into a mode, and I went back to my house. I'll never forget. I was just driving around. I drove back home because I hate that. Um, like I think jealousy is like a green-eyed monster. Like I cut that off at the root, right? That is not who I am. It's not who I want for with to be friends in my life. Like that's not who I want around me. I think it's one of the most destructive forces out there, right? The Bible says, "Who can stand before jealousy?" And that's awful. So I hated that part of me that I went back to my house. I'm like, what on earth? How's this ever gonna change? And you know what I decided to do? I decided to sow into my own future. I called her. I said, I am gonna throw the biggest baby shower for you. I'm gonna do it right. So here's the thing, guys. I bought a nice gift. I hosted a great shower, all in the midst of my lack. Now, some of you may not be able to identify with this, but those of you that have been trying to get pregnant, those of you who've dealt with fertility issues, understand the disappointment that happens every single month, or the struggle that happens when what you want so desperately bad happens for everybody else, and you're seemingly left like just out there, right? Like it's a sorority or fraternity that you're not going to get to be a part of. And it's a club that you won't belong to. And I was literally sit there and I thought, I have to do everything to go against because I'm sowing abundance into my future. And so I literally hosted a fantastic baby shower because it was for her, but it was for me. I was sowing into my future. Do you kind of understand the principle? I was sowing to where I wanted to go. Let's fast forward. I'm in the real estate business. I have been in the real estate business for nearly 30 years, nearly 3 decades. I'm aging myself now. And I literally, when I got into real estate, I had great aspirations, but I would start to just see that my signs are going to be everywhere. Guys, when I'm seeing my signs everywhere, I'm broke as a joke. I do not have anything. I don't even have a client probably. I mean, it was like, and I'm driving around town and I'm like, hey, the my signs are all over the Cedar Valley. My signs are all over the Cedar Valley and I'm visualizing, I'm seeing it. And guess what? I had nothing going on. So guess what I did? I took every opportunity. There was a top agent in our market, and I just started to sew into her. I started to give to her. I'd send her flowers. I'd send her cards. I'd I'd send her whatever. I'd buy her gifts and just reach out to her. I'd send a nice note. Hey, congratulations, that's awesome. You know what I was doing? I was building up my own future. I was sowing where I wanted to go. Guys, it's a principle. It's a principle of giving. What did I give? I gave my time. I gave some words. I gave some gifts, but it was a principle. Like I'm giving into a place where I want to go. Other scenarios, when I was in this process, I was walking through a time, and I was out for dinner, and I saw this family, and this family has had great success, ran a wonderful business. They had no financial needs whatsoever, and I sat down, and I'm like, oh yeah, I got the feeling. And there was like 12 of them. I'm like, I just need to buy their dinner. So I told the person I need to buy their dinner. Here's the thing. While they may have thought, oh, that was nice of her. To me, it was a costly. It was like, whoa, I don't really have that kind of money to spend $1,000 for a dinner or $800 for a dinner or whatever it was at the time, right? Um, but I literally knew I needed to do it. They didn't need me to do it. I needed to do it. Where I wanted to go would require that. And so it's a principle everywhere. It's a principle of not withholding, but getting involved in your future and doing it by giving. So I believe that it's so funny how this principle just keeps showing up in my life. So I have one of my real estate coaches, not one of them, he is my real estate coach. We were talking today about this whole thing of how Paul had said she had sown her way out. She basically had given. And he said that he's a recovered alcoholic, free from alcohol for like 14 or 15 years, and an amazing, impactful human being doing lots of things on this earth. And he said, "Amy, it's the same thing. When I had been kicked out of every rehab, I'd walked out. I had nothing else but a bike. At age 41, nothing but a bike." And he said, "I went to a good friend of mine's house and I said, 'Hey, can I talk to you?' And he goes, 'I'm really in a bad spot.' And the guy said, 'No.' He goes, 'Can I sit down?' And he said, 'No, you can't sit down.' He said, 'You know what you need to do? There's someone in a worse spot than you. Go find them. Go help them.' Go help them." So, guys, when you're walking through, let's say you're walking through agonizing loss, the only way out is through the vein of giving, giving of your time, giving of your person, getting outside of yourself. It's the only way to produce life back in you. It's the only way. Have you ever noticed if you get into a funk, or if you wake up in the morning and you don't feel great and you're kind of like the weight of the world is on your shoulders? Have you ever noticed if you can just get beyond yourself and start to think about someone else and start to give into someone else's life, how your atmosphere around your mind starts to shift? You start to see things differently. You start to have the spirit of an overcomer, like, okay, I got this. Like that overcoming spirit starts to rise in you as you keep sowing into other people's lives. I'll never forget this. A few years ago, I was faced with a health challenge, and it was a health crisis of sorts. And at the time, I was making calls for a friend of mine, and they were prayer calls. And um, I would make these calls, and when I was going through this whole health situation, they said to me, "Amy, do you want to back off the calls because it would take me a couple hours a week?" And I'm like, and I immediately knew, no, I need to be giving to people. I need to be giving to people. That is how this is going to come forth. And so in that season, I would be on the phone making prayer calls, praying, and then people would tell me I need prayer for this, and now I'm nervous about this, and I've just had these tests done and all this stuff. All while I'm walking through the midst of my own crisis. I'm walking through my own personal crisis and um a hell basically. The whole entire time, I was so faithful to make those calls, and every time I got on there, I would be praying with people about healing. I'd be praying for people, and the entire thing at time, I'd be thinking, "God, this is so crazy. I'm walking through what I'm walking through. They'd have no idea. And I'm praying for their health and I'm praying for their healing." And I so believe that that is part of your deliverance. It's part of your healing. It's part of things being restored to you, is you getting outside of yourself and giving in those kinds of ways, going above it. There's an exchange that happens when you can give and get outside of yourself. So I make it a point every day to think about who I need to think about. Like, because you can all wake up, we can all be so self absorbed. We can all be like, "Oh, I got the weight of this. I got to think about that. I got family situations. I got this." Because here's the reality of it: you're either on the highest of highs, or guess what? You're getting ready to go. The peaks and the valleys of this life are the one thing that we know is for sure. It rains upon the just and the unjust. You're gonna have storms. You're gonna have things in life that you're gonna experience loss. You're gonna experience setback. How do you move out of those? You move out of those by getting outside of yourself. In great times of pain and loss, great times of lack, great times of distress, it's always been the path that I've always walked has always been the path of getting outside of myself and serving another human being, getting outside of myself and giving to another human being, getting outside of myself and ministering to somebody else, doing something for somebody else, sowing into an area that I wanted to have healthy and good, right? Guys, it is the principle. It's the principle that just doesn't quit. And if you ask any person that's even around me remotely, they'll say, "Is Amy a giver?" emphatically, I'm a giver. I'm a liberal, generous giver. And it's just because I know the power of it. And I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about in my time. And sometimes time's harder than money, guys. It just depends in the season you're in. Sometimes there are seasons where your time is more valuable to you than your money is. And then there's other seasons where your money is more valuable than your time is. Whatever it is, as you sow those things into areas that you want to go, I can look for my own life. I've got like stones of remembrance, chapter after chapter, where I've seen breakthrough, where I've seen things shift in my life. I've seen things come full circle. I've seen the abundance have come into my life. I've seen the goodness of God come into my life. I've seen healing and health come into my life. I've seen victory come into my life. I've seen these things. I've seen victory through lawsuits. I've seen these things as I've just gotten outside of myself. Because, guys, pressure and stress and trials are all part of this world. So, a guiding principle to lead you out, to lead you to breakthrough into victory, is to ask that your eyes would be sensitive to see who you need to see, your ears would hear what they need to hear, that you could literally um, meet the needs of other human beings. Because as you do that, as you minister to other people, as you give into other people, as you sow into other people, you are going to experience the breakthrough yourself. It's the most incredible thing. And when I look at even, again, I'm in the real estate business, some of the greatest people that I know in this industry are the exact same way. They give, they have an abundant eye. They don't think in scarcity, they don't think in lack. They will share all their information. They'll open up their business plan. They'll share everything to help you get where you need to go because they understand those principles. If I help you get where you want to go, things are going to work out for me. They'll work out just fine. If you help enough people get what they want in life, you'll have everything you need in life. And that is true. So not only is giving and serving and getting out of yourself a way to an abundant life, it's also a weapon. It's a weapon to move out of one season into another season. You're going to go where you sow. So make sure where you're sowing is where you want to go. Because, guys, it's the truth. I've seen it over and over and over. And I'm starting to say, guys, I'm 50 years old. I mean, literal. I'm 52 actually, to be literal. And I can tell you, I have seen over and over and over seasons of lack, seasons of scarcity that I have to step out of myself, step out of what would typically be the normal path and to give of myself, give of my time, give of my resources, give in the face of lack and adversity and see it all change, see it all turn around. So I know it's a key, and I hope that you found this key of giving, this key of literally meeting someone else's need, this key of serving. So when I say giving and serving, I mean it's all kind of getting outside of yourself and doing that. I promise you, if you will actively seek to bless another human being and serve another human being, you're going to experience so much goodness in your life. You're going to be amazed. So I'm going to challenge you this week to be on high alert, to have your ears tuned and your eyes sensitive to who it is that I can meet a need for. Every day I wake up with an agenda, and my agenda is who can I serve today? Who can I meet a need for today? Who can I abundantly bless today? That is every day. That's just a normal thought pattern for me. I always have an agenda. Who am I gonna have contact with today? Who can I make a positive impact in their life today? Guys, if that is your mantra, if that is your theme, I promise you, you're gonna look back on your life a year from now and think, man, I can't believe the amazing things that have happened to me because at the end of the day, it's always coming full circle. It's always coming full circle. And guess what? The liberal, generous giver is abundantly blessed. They're just abundantly blessed, and you'll see it all over their life. There's a difference. So I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. If you have, please give it a share, like it, give me a 5-star review. I'd love that. And as always, I want you to remember one thing: you are more. You're created for more, but you truly are more. Be blessed.